nothing like driving in a storm. It's kind of invigorating. If I didn't know any better, I'd say the whole state of Georgia is about to get washed out to sea.
My, who is this strapping young lad? Grandma, this is Huey, the man I was telling you about, the fine young Yankee doctor from Baltimore. Wonderful to meet you, Huey. That's short for Hubert, right?
Correct.
I knew it. I like that name. It is a smart, southern name, Hubert. Are you sure you're not southern?
Born and raised in Connecticut.
Nobody's perfect. Come on. I feel like I know you already. She's told me so much about you.
Oh, don't worry, Huey. It was all good.
Oh, of course it was.
Oh my, he's brilliant and confident. Brilliant, confident, young, and full of vigor.
Oh.
Perfect.
I only wish I could have elicited the same response from your father. He thought I was cocky and arrogant.
My son-in-law has a bad habit of continually underestimating the virtues of youth. Now tell me, how long have you two been courting each other?
Oh, it's been 6 months to the day since I accidentally rear-ended him in the parking lot of a shopping mall. He was getting a new suit for a medical conference, and I was buying a laptop.
It was a moment I shall never forget.
Oh, perfect. Well, it is so nice to meet you, young man.
Nice to meet you too. I have to say that you look...
Amazingly young for my age. I get that all the time.
Well, I was expecting you to look much older.
It's these southern genes. Not that your young Yankee genes are anything to sneeze at. It does remind me a little bit of Haywood.
Who?
Oh, Haywood. He's my grandfather.
You never told me about him.
Oh, honey, he died quite some time ago. Bless his heart.
Well, I'm terribly sorry about that.
It's all right. It's all part of the natural world. Regrettable, but there it is. You know, some people think it's a tragedy to lose your spouse, but I say it's a gift and a blessing.
Listen to that thunder.
There's another one. If this keeps up, we'll be able to swim our way to Savannah. By the way, I made us a nice batch of cookies. Been working on them all day. I thought later we'd put the kettle on and have some tea.
Ooh, cookies. Oh, Huey, you haven't lived until you've had one of Grandma's cookies. They're delicious.
I'm just your ordinary, traditional Southern grandma, right?
I guess so.
Delightful. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to go take those cookies out of the oven before they burn.
She's lovely. She kind of reminds me of a character from a Civil War novel.
Oh, she does, doesn't she?
Yeah, I'm amazed at how young she looks. How old is she?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, grandmothers aren't supposed to really age, are they?
We don't want to think of them as aging, but they invariably do. Your grandma, however, looks like she just woke up out of a 40-year sleep from a cryogenic freezer.
Well, she stays active, you know, and has friends and stuff like that. Oh, she has her hobbies.
Like reading children's books?
Yes, you could say that.
Wait a minute. Well, these are horror stories. Well, I've seen these books before. Labyrinth of the Werewolf. Curse of the Headless Pirate. The Witch's Moon.
Oh, you remember those?
Oh, yes, I do. These were the Night of Fear horror series for kids. They were big back in my day. Every kid in school was reading these.
Oh, not just every kid in your school, Huey. Every kid in North America.
Every kid except me and a few of my buddies.
Are you saying you never read any of those books?
No, I thought they were childish. Take, for example, this one. The Demon Rabbit of Darlington. You think any self-respecting boy is going to pick up a book about a rabbit from hell? Dogs from hell, maybe, but possessed rabbits, never. And the writer's name, Emma Staunton. Now, that kind of reminds me of a teacher that used to give me Saturday detention all the time.
Huey, I have something to show you.
Okay,
Are you ready?
go ahead.
Look at the back of the book.
Emma Staunton?
Yes?
That remarkably young-looking lady who just went into the kitchen is your grandma and she wrote these books?
Yes.
You're the descendant of a kiddie horror writer?
For the last time, Huey. Yes. I'm back with a fresh, warm plate of delicious smelling cookies. They are from the recipe of my good friend Irene Sample down in Charleston. I hope I wasn't gone too long. Oh, not at all. Huey and I were just chatting about your books. Were you? Now, Maggie, girl, you wouldn't dare tell him all my secrets. Have you read my books, young man?
Actually, no.
You haven't? No, Huey thought that they were... Childish. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I see that you're a gentleman with a penchant for judging books and titles by their covers. Well, let's remedy that, shall we, dear? Here you go, honey. The Demon Rabbit of Darlington.
The Demon Rabbit of Darlington. Not the kind of book one would expect a doctor to read.
And what kind of books do you read, young man?
The New England Journal of Medicine and other nonfiction books.
Boring and practical. I think you'll find my story most exciting.
How so?
Well, it's about the ghost of an evil magician who brings a stuffed toy rabbit to life, which then runs around the town, eating all the little village children.
Quaint. Disturbing for little children, perhaps, but I can see where it might have some appeal.
It was based on a true story. Grandma insists that all her stories be based on real life.
Is that so?
Yes.
Wow, it's funny too.
Oh, it is. Well, this particular story was inspired by an elderly man.
Well, she's just cracking up all over the place.
Oh, it's like I'm clamped. I'm sorry. I'm so well, gather yourself. Yes. Why did you go? Well, it's about a little man lived at the edge of town and he needed money. So what he did was he decided to become a magician, entertain the little kiddies, put a few extra bucks in his pocket. Well, obviously, if he needed money, he had no money, so he couldn't afford to go and buy a rabbit. So he caught a wild rabbit from the forest. One day, forgive me, it's just a funny. One day, that rabbit in the middle of the show left the stage, jumped into the front row, and attacked the children. Oh, my God, it was chaos, just chaos. But eventually that rabbit did run off into the woods, and by the time everything had settled down, everything was really okay, but there was this fear. The children had fear that a demon rabbit was going to be waiting for them if they tarried too long in the streets late at night. Oh, it was a good form of something.
And so,
No.
what happened to the children?
Oh, it's really sweet. He cares about the children. Turns out they were. The rabbit was just a crazy little bastard. Although the children did complain in a steep decrease in purchase of rabbits after the incident.
Well, I guess there are consequences to everything.
That's what I tried to teach, Hubert. I tried to teach the children consequences. You'll have to read the book to understand it in its entirety, but ultimately it's about teaching the children the value of frugality through vicious child-eating monsters.
Interesting. An appropriate teaching method for those who want to turn out a generation of petrified adults. However, I'm not so sure that's a wise teaching tool. So, when did you start this profitable hobby?
Well, it was after my late husband, or granddaddy, Colonel Haywood Staunton, passed away. I got so depressed, I just wanted to get ready and join him in the grave. I started to become old and decrepit. So I was just wasting away, and then my good friend Irene Samples wanted me with the cookie recipe. She came to me and said, honey, it is time to join the land of the living. You need to do something with yourself. Why don't you start writing? So she encouraged me to become a writer. And she just kept saying, write what you know, write what you know. In fact, she inspired me to write some of my best stories.
Which one?
Like this one. The Garden of Evil at Midnight. And it's the tale in which a witch
takes children who are lying and turns them into stone statues to stand forever in her garden. Forever, as in for all eternity. Irene always told me that she heard this from her grandmother, who heard this from her grandmother, who heard this from her grandmother.
Folk tales and family legends.
You're a bit of a cynic, Hubert. I expect as much. He is a product of a completely wrong education.
Yeah, I concur.
I beg your pardon?
Maggie, I think we need tea for our cookies. Would you mind going to put the kettle on the stove?
Of course I will.
Mr. Hubert. Now that we have a moment alone, let me ask you something. Do you believe in monsters?
You mean like werewolves, demons, witches? Creatures you obviously like to write about in your books?
Yes, that's it.
Nope.
That's a pity.
Why do you say that?
Because they exist, Hubert.
No kidding.
I detect a hint of mockery in your voice, young man.
Oh, my apologies.
No need to apologize. I can understand your inability to believe you're a doctor after all, and your mind is too rational to believe in things that go bump in the night.
Well, being rational just means that you're more in tune with reality.
What a tragic thought! You know, most of the children who read my books believe in monsters, and that's why they are careful as grown-ups. You, on the other hand, have never read them, and maybe that's why you're not so careful.
I'm always careful.
Is that so? Why, for all you know, there could be a real monster in this room right now, and you wouldn't even know it.
What kind of monster would be in this room, and what would it want?
Before we go any further, I think you need to have one of my cookies before they get cold.
Yeah. Maggie was right. This is delicious. Now, tell me, what kind of monster is here, and why do I need to fear it?
Well, I'm afraid it's related to a book that's never been published.
Ooh, suspense.
It's about a fine southern woman who lures susceptible young people into her home so she can use them in a special recipe to stay young.
Sounds like Tennessee Williams by way of Stephen King.
Receptive! But I thought if I published it, then it would be very terrible, very difficult to find young, susceptible young people to use. You see, I'm just pretentious enough to believe that those children would read my books and know exactly what they were getting into, and that someone like me might need to be avoided.
So, did you two miss me?
Not at all. Your grandmother was just telling me about the invisible monsters she writes about.
They're not always invisible, you know.
What are you talking about?
Did you enjoy your cookie?
It's good. There's a little bitter taste to it. I also seem to have choked on something.
I have to say, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And the best part was he thought he had nothing to fear.
I know, it makes our job so easy.
Now, darling, you make sure you finish eating that cookie. It would be so rude not to finish. And my dear friend Irene Samples, my inspiration, did give me the recipe. You all right, honey?